Hello everyone, DM Gashbad here. The boys in grey are back. The Ghostbusters return for another game of Zombicide 1st Edition. This channel is nothing if not up to date on all the hottest, most current games that I can get for a really low price at a swap meet. As with my other Zombicide playthroughs, I am going through the 4-player missions first, in this case because I want to use the Ghostbusters, and there's only 4 of them. And I'm also doing the easiest missions first. We started with the tutorial, we got that out of the way. The next easy 4-player mission I could find is from CMON's Zombicide website, and that is mission A7 House Cleaning. It's a 4-tile map like this. The Ghostbusters starts in the lower right. It's pretty straightforward. All we have to do is collect all the objectives and get to the exit zone in the top left. There's a spawn zone in the left, and at the top there's also a spawn zone, the blue spawn zone, which is attached to a police car. Well, in this case I'm using the Ecto-1, because of course. We left the siren on the Ecto-1, so while it's activated there's going to be 3 noise tokens in that zone, and the blue spawn zone is going to be active. Any Ghostbuster in that zone can spend an action to turn it off. That removes the noise tokens and also shuts off the blue spawn zone. We can also drive the Ecto-1 if we want. We can also search it. We can search it multiple times. We go through the equipment deck until we find a weapon, then we pull that. I guess the Ghostbusters roll into the zombie apocalypse strapped. However, one of the 4 objectives is the blue objective, and if we pick that up, then a house alarm goes off and the blue spawn zone becomes active again, and shutting off the Ecto's alarm won't affect it. As a side note, this is actually the second time that I've played this mission. The first time I played it, it didn't go great, primarily because I got the starting equipment cards wrong. I thought that you took all the starting equipment cards and then just dealt them all randomly to the Ghostbusters. That's not what you do. You actually take the crowbar, the pistol, and the fire axe, and then you take as many pans as will fill out the rest of the numbers of your starting survivors. So I take 1 pan, and then you distribute those. Doing it the other way meant that none of my guys had a fire axe, and Fatty, a brute zombie, got into our zone. I just couldn't get rid of it, and eventually I got surrounded by a bunch of the bad ghosts, as you see here, and it just didn't go well. Often for minor rules mistakes, I would just go with it. But in this case, I think not having that fire axe really did affect the game, and so I've gone and redone it. So for this game, Winston Zeddemore has the fire axe. He also has the lifesaver skill, which I didn't use to great effect. I thought I knew what it was, and it turns out I was wrong. The Season 1 of 1st Edition Zombicide didn't actually list all of the skills that my Ghostbusters have. Suffice to say that if you're playing these guys, look up lifesaver because it's a really good skill, and I did not utilize it in this game. Winston does still start with a proton pack, and he has the escalation skill. The presence of the proton packs really affects how this game is played. They're a great weapon to start with. You fire it, it's 3 dice that hit on a 5+. If you fire it a second time in the same turn without taking any actions in between, you add a die. So your second shot is 4 dice, third shot is 5 dice, you get the idea. Also, any 6s that you roll increase the damage on the proton streams. So if you roll 1 6, now it's a strength 2 weapon and you can kill fatties. And if you roll 2 6s, now you can kill abominations. And that is good because we're using a lot of abominations now. The tutorial just had a limited bad guy deck, but now I'm putting in all the Ghostbusters enemies into the zombie deck to even things out. We start with a really powerful weapon, we should fight powerful enemies. So the terror dogs, Vinz Clortho and Zuul are both wandering around, Gozer's wandering around, as well as Gozer in the form of Stay Puft, and if we pick up any food or water, Slimer could show up to steal it from us. Anyway, moving on, Pete Venkman has the crowbar as well as the taunt skill, which again, I didn't look up the rules for, it could have come in handy. Ray gets the pan, too bad for Ray, he also has the skill that allows him to search multiple times in the same turn, normally you can only make the search action once. And Egon has a pistol, which is nice because his skill is that he can shoot at +1 range. So with that, I think we're ready to begin. The Ghostbusters start near a great big building in the upper right. It's got 2 objectives, and I kind of think I'd like to open it up while I'm still in the blue experience level. So I'm going to start with Venkman because he has the crowbar. We all have 3 actions to start with. He's going to move forward 1 zone for his first action, and he's going to use the crowbar to open up the door for his second action. Doesn't create any noise, and we've got 7 rooms to spawn. As always, I start the spawns from the furthest back. The big room in the back gives us 1 walker. The second room gives us a few result, which means no one shows up. So far, so good. And then the third room gives us Gozer. So Gozer the Gozerian shows up in that room, and then we draw a Gozer card again. So Gozer gets another activation and moves up into a room closer to my guys, which isn't great. Next room, we get another walker, then we get a few again, which isn't bad. And then for the final room, right in front of Venkman, we get Vinz Clortho, the terror dog arrives. So here's the deal with these abominations. Vinz Clortho acts like a normal abomination. Causes 1 damage, moves 1, needs a 3 damage shot to kill it. The only real special rule is that if Vinz Clortho is on the board and you draw another Vinz Clortho card, then you spawn another abomination in that zone. You can choose which one. If you don't have any more abominations to spawn, then all abominations get an extra move. Gozer's rules are even weirder. When Gozer spawns, you choose 2 other abominations that you own, and Gozer gets those special rules. Now, I don't have a lot of expansions for this game, so the only abominations that I have are the regular abomination, the 2 terror dogs, and Stay Puft. I'm not sure I can just choose the regular abomination, which essentially has 0 special rules, and I definitely don't want Gozer to have Stay Puft rules, because that's bad news. So when Gozer shows up, I'm just going to give it the 2 terror dog rules. So when Gozer and Vinz Clortho are both on the board, if I draw another Vinz Clortho card, then I'm going to produce another 2 abominations. And if I don't have any other abominations, then all abominations are going to get an extra 2 moves. So things could get really ugly really fast. Speaking of ugly, Venkman was going to try and go into this building and start clearing out zombies, but now there's this big monster right in front of him. I'm going to have to deal with this thing at some point, so Venkman goes ahead and takes a shot. 3 dice looking for double 6s. He doesn't get it. But that's okay, we've got 3 more Ghostbusters behind them. One after the other, each of them takes their first action to move into the zone with Pete Venkman, then they fire their first shot with 3 dice, and they fire their second shot with 4 dice. We're looking for a single shot that produces 2 6s to get rid of Vinz Clortho, and none of us do it. All we do is make Vince angry. This was not a good building, we might be in a lot of trouble. So zombie turn and Vince bounds into our zone and Gozer moves up behind him. The closest walker has 2 equidistant routes, so it actually splits into 2 and moves into both the close rooms. The other walker moves up and we're on to the spawn phase. The spawn zone in the left gives us a fatty, and in first edition, when you spawn a fatty, 2 walkers also show up with it, so that's not great. And then in the north, we get the still cool result, so no one shows up there. At least I didn't draw a Vinz Clortho card, so that could have been worse. For the start of my turn, I have a big problem. I can't fire into this zone without hitting my fellow Ghostbusters. So for all of my actions, for all of my Ghostbusters, we're just going to leave. We're going to run away and try and get some distance to shoot at Vince again. Their first action is going to be moving out of that zone, which of course takes another action because there's a bad guy in there with us. And then we're going to move 1 more zone around the corner. We're just going to wheel around and get our proton packs ready. So that was quick. In the zombie phase, Vince, Gozer, and the 3 zombies continue to chase after us. The fatty and the other 2 walkers move up that side street, and then we go into the spawn phase. A Vinz Clortho card would really mess me up at this point, but we don't get it. We get 2 walkers in the left and 1 walker in the top. So back to the Ghostbusters, and bad guys are closing in all around me, so I gotta make my stand here. Gotta do something about Vinz Clortho. We're gonna start with Ray Stans. Ray Stans is gonna take a shot with 3 dice, fails to kill Vince. 4 dice, fails to kill. 5 dice, still fails to kill. Pete Venkman's going to do the exact same thing. Can't roll these double 6s. He's just bounding through a hail of proton streams. Winston's up next, misses with his first shot. 4th shot gets the double 6. Vinz Clortho is zapped. We don't capture him, of course, because he could show up in this game again, but we do hurt him badly enough so he has to bound off down the street. That'll learn ya. Winston gets 5 XP for defeating an abomination, and he's got 1 action left, but there's not a whole lot he wants to do right now. He's happy with where he is. He's just going to chill. Egon, however, still has 3 actions, and I'm a little bit worried about the fatty and the 2 walkers coming up behind us, so he's going to move 1 zone and take a shot down the left-hand street. First shot with 3 dice only results in 1 5+, so he kills off 1 walker. In this game, the walkers are targeted first. The second shot, 4 dice, again, only kills the walker. I'm getting flashbacks from my first game. This fatty's going to end up in my zone, and I might be in trouble. So sure enough, the fatty moves into Egon's zone. The zombies close in from the left and above. Gozer moves up to threaten the rest of the Ghostbusters. The walkers from the main building following in behind. And we're not getting much of a reprieve in the spawn phase. 2 more walkers show up to the left, and Vinz Clortho, he just looped around the block and comes straight back onto the board, this time in the north. Bad dog. Back to the Ghostbusters, and we have a number of problems. Perhaps most threatening is Gozer coming at my 3 Ghostbusters. Alright, Pete's up. He's got to show her how we do things downtown. Misses once, twice, gets her with the third shot, neutralizes her. 5 XP for Pete, and that south area is looking a lot better. Okay, next problem is that Fatty and Egon zone. I'm going to activate Winston because he has the fire axe. He's going to move north 1 zone, swing with the axe. He rolls a single die and needs a 4+ to hit, misses with his first attack, gets it with his second. Nicely done, Winston. You're at 6 XP now, 1 away from the yellow experience level. I'm going to activate Ray next. He moves 1 zone to join Egon and Winston, and then just starts spraying proton streams down the street, and he misses with all his shots. Dang it, Ray? Not what I wanted to see. I would have liked to have used Egon with that extra range to attack Vince again, but I gotta attack zombies. Fires to the left with his first shot with 3 dice, manages to kill 1 walker. Shoots again, kills the last walker, shoots to the north, kills the one up there. Okay, gave us some breathing room. Hopefully no one's gonna invade our zone this round. Zombie turn and the walkers and Vince close in. Again, the left street spawns 2 more walkers and we get 1 more walker in the north. I would love to get over to that siren and turn that thing off. But of course we have that big angry terror dog again. Let's see if I can do something about him. We're going to start with Ray again. His day is going to come. I need to get some XP on that guy. My first shot is going to be to the left. Figure it's really unlikely I'm going to get 2 6s when I'm only rolling 3 dice. Might as well try and kill a walker. I do in fact kill a single walker, and then I spend my next 2 shots when I'm rolling 4 and 5 dice to try and get rid of Vince, which I fail to do. Winston's going to do much the same. I'm going to spend my first shot to shoot down the left-hand street. Try and finish off that last walker, but I miss. I really do want that walker gone, though. He spends his second shot to get rid of it. This time he rolls a 5+, manages to kill off that walker, which actually puts him in the yellow experience level. So now he has 2 more actions. This is looking pretty good. Spends his third action to shoot at Vince. We're up to 5 dice. Don't get the double 6s. Vince is okay. Now I'm rolling 6 dice. Still can't do it. Uh-oh. Egon's pretty close to the yellow experience level himself, so I wouldn't mind him leveling up now that we're going to be drawing the yellow band zombie spawn cards anyway. So he's going to shoot first up north. Of course, his range is 2, so he can get that zombie by the Ecto 1. Manages to kill him. He's going to spend his second shot shooting 2 zones over to the left in the red spawn zone. 4 dice he misses, though. I really do want to get him to the yellow experience level, so I shoot again to the left. That kills off 1 zombie. Not exactly great rolling, but it does get him that extra action when he goes into the yellow experience level. That's cool. Now I've got a 6 die shot into Vinz, which does not come up with the requisite double 6. Just eating protons for breakfast. Okay, I'm a little worried about this situation. I think I might need a plan B. For my last activation, I'm going to go to Pete Venkman. He's going to take a shot down south, manages to kill off 1 walker. He's then going to move into the zone with all the other Ghostbusters and use his crowbar to open up the door to the big building on the right. I think we need an escape route. Zombie turn, Vinz Clortho moves into our zone again. The walker population has actually been thinned out quite a bit, so not as many of them closing on us. Go to the spawn phase, we're now in the yellow experience level, so we get 3 walkers to the left, and stay puffed! The big marshmallow man arrives with thundering footsteps in the north. Super unhelpful. Oh, for those of you who didn't watch my last video, you may have noticed that these aren't the official CMON miniatures for the Ghostbusters and the Abominations. They're actually from the Ghostbusters board game by Cryptozoic. I was already painting those models. I didn't want to go and paint the same guys twice. We're just using them. So back to the Ghostbusters, we're going to start with Egon. I plan on leaving. Thankfully, Egon has 4 actions now. I'm going to spend my first action to get rid of the zombie 2 spaces away to the south. I don't want him doubling back and trying to cut me off. I might do a big ring around the rosy running away from these Abominations. Anyway, I roll 3 dice and I get double 6s. Egon, that came a little bit too late. So the 1 zombie dies. I spend my next 2 actions to get out of the zone with Vinz Clortho. I'm going to move into that big building, and then I move to the north into that big room at the top. We're going to make our stand there. Winston's my other guy with 4 actions. He's going to shoot at the zombie to the south. He misses, so again, spends his next 2 actions getting away from Vinz Clortho, and then uses his final action to join Egon. Ray and Pete are still at the blue experience level, spend their first 2 actions getting away from Vince, and then their last to join the rest of them. We've set up a trap for Vince again, but if he draws another one of his cards, he's going to leap into our zone, which is going to be bad. Thankfully, that doesn't happen. Vince goes into the building chasing after the zone with the 4 noise tokens, because each of my Ghostbusters creates a noise. Stay Puft and the walkers close in, and in the spawn phase we get 2 runners to the left and 1 runner to the north. Now we get the fast zombies. Back to the Ghostbusters, we're going to start with Pete again. Pete is low on experience, and we're in a room with an objective, so he's going to start off by grabbing that. That puts him into the yellow experience level. 4 actions, that's cool. We're going to spend all 3 actions shooting at Vince, doing nothing. Bad shooting, Tex. Winston's next. Misses Vince with his first, second, third shots, gets him with his 4th. Nice job, Zedmore. That's 2 Vinz Clorthos you've bagged this game. Okay, over to Ray Stands. Again, a little low on XP. He's going to move 2 zones and take the other red objective in this big building. Next to activate is Egon. He moves 1 zone to the south, takes a shot out the door, and misses. Second shot kills off a single walker, and then he moves in to join Ray. So now the weird thing is that since none of the zombies can see my guys, and since we're both in rooms with 2 Ghostbusters, the area with the most noise is actually the Ecto-1. So Stay Puft and the walkers do an about face and try and shut off that thing because it's annoying, and suddenly things aren't looking as threatening. In the spawn phase, the left zone draws a Stay Puft card. Well, Stay Puft's exactly where he wants to be, so it doesn't actually go anywhere. And in the north, we get another 2 walkers. Alright, so now while everyone's distracted by the Ecto, maybe we can come right back out the way we came in. I'm going to start with Ray. He's going to move 1 zone forward. He's going to shoot out the door. He's going to miss. And then he's going to shoot again, and he misses again. Ray is not having a good game. I do not want that zone left with just a couple of runners in there. That would be bad for me. Alright, Winston, you got to solve some problems for me. He moves 1 zone to the south and shoots out the door. Manages to kill 1 walker with his first shot, another walker with his second, and then with his third shot he goes crazy and he kills off the final walker and both runners. That was a good hire, Ghostbusters. Pete's next. He moves 2 zones out onto the street and takes a shot to the north, which misses. But I don't want to spend my time blasting away at zombies. I want to go get that objective in the building in the lower left, so I just move down the street. Egon goes and moves 3 zones to join him, and then with his extended range takes a shot at that 1 walker and manages to blast it off the table. Zombie turn, and now the zombies can see me, so they leave the Ecto-1 behind. The 2 walkers, Stay Puft, and the runner all try to get me. And we have a pretty light spawn phase, just 1 walker to the left and 1 walker up top. So Stay Puft is eventually going to be a problem, but right now I just want to focus on getting that lower left objective. Pete still got the crowbar, so he opens up the door. As always, spawning furthest to closest. We get 4 walkers in the far room, 1 runner in the room next to the entryway, and then we get Zuul. Dang it, these terror dogs are just trying to ambush us. Pete spends his next 2 actions blasting away at Zuul, failing to do anything, and then spends his last action to move to the south. I got too many bad guys that can get into my zone. I do not like this. Over to Egon, and Egon has to do some work. With my 3-die shot, I'm going to shoot at Stay Puft's zone. I'm going to take out those walkers in his zone because I don't want to deal with them. Manages to kill off both of them, which is great. He then turns his neutrino wand onto Zuul with 4 dice and gets the double 6. Way to go, Egon. I have 2 more actions, but I kind of want to leave that 1 runner next to me for Ray. I want to get him in the yellow experience level. So I just take 1 action and I move into the zone with Pete. I don't want to get that runner from the building into my zone just in case it gets another activation. So over to Ray. Ray got to make this happen. Takes his first shot at that runner and misses. Finally kills him with a second shot. That brings Ray into the yellow experience level. Great job, Ray. Gonna spend his next 2 actions searching. First time I've done that this game. Ray manages to find gasoline, which is kind of cool, and a katana. There's a visual image for you. As for Winston, I think I want to set up shop there. If Stay Puft moves 1 more zone forward, then all of my guys will be in position to shoot at him. In order to get rid of Stay Puft, I need 2 different Ghostbusters to do a damage 3 shot on him with a proton pack in the same turn. So it's not exactly what you'd call easy, but with 4 Ghostbusters, maybe. This is probably the best opportunity I'm going to have. So on the zombie turn, Stay Puft moves into position, doesn't get an extra activation, which is nice, and all the zombies kind of close in. The left gives me 3 more walkers. So many walkers from that side. And for the north spawn zone, we draw an extra activation for all fatties. Fortunately, there are no fatties on the board. Back to the heroes. We're going to start with Venkman again. Yeah, I want to shoot at Stay Puft, but that runner on the street really has to go. Venkman's going to take his first shot at him and fortunately kills him. He's then going to move up and shoot into the building. Because I took a move action between my shot, I'm down to 3 dice again, so might as well shoot in there, because I'm probably not going to get the double 6 to do any damage to Stay Puft. Anyway, Venkman has gotten fired up. His first shot hits with all 3 dice, killing off 3 walkers. Fantastic! Might as well just clear that room, that'd be handy. Final action kills off the last walker, and it's looking pretty good. Egon's up next, and we're using that extra range to put a bunch of streams into Stay Puft. First shot gives me double 6s. Halfway there, and I didn't expect that. Well, alright, there's not a whole lot left for him to do. I'm going to have him move 2 zones into the building on the left and get that 3rd objective. Again, not the blue objective, so the house alarm hasn't been tripped. Not that it really matters, because I haven't been able to get the Ecto-1 to turn off its siren. But still, making progress. That also puts Egon into the orange experience level, and I'm going to choose the skill Point Blank. This will allow me to shoot into zones with my fellow Ghostbusters and not worry about hitting them. I feel like that has been happening far too often, and I want another solution for that instead of just trying to run away. We're going to go with Ray next, and there is a big sugary monstrosity right in front of him. It's got 1 proton stream on him already. Let's see if Ray can add the second one. Misses with the first shot, but then gets him with the second. Stay Puft is down! Roasted marshmallows for Lower Manhattan. Egon and Ray both get 5 experience. Ray spends his 3rd action to move out onto the street and his final one to kill the walker to the left. Now I think the tide has turned. We're doing well. Winston's up next, moves through the puddle of marshmallow topping, takes 2 shots at the walker to the north, misses both times, finally kills him with his 3rd shot. Zombie turn, there's only 3 walkers on the board in that left-hand street, and they just shuffle up. We're now in the orange, though, for spawning. We get Gozer again to the left. Unhelpful. We also get 2 runners to the north, which isn't great. I need to do something about them. I'm going to start with Winston. He's going to move 1 zone to the north, then he's going to miss those runners, which is getting kind of dangerous. Survivors in 1st edition Zombicide really only have 2 wounds. Second shot, now at 4 dice, manages to kill them both. Great job, Winston. He's also in the orange experience level now, and I choose to give him a free move action. He uses that to move into the zone with the Ecto-1, and we finally turn off that alarm. Venkman's up next, moves into that cross street, takes a shot to the left. First shot kills 1, then his second shot misses completely. His final shot kills off 2 walkers. That puts him in the orange zone. I'm going to give him the skill Slippery. That means I can move out of zones containing zombies without paying the extra actions. Again, the Ghostbusters do not like getting stuck in zones with zombies. Egon's next. He moves for his first 2 actions and then takes 2 shots at Gozer. That extra range is really handy. Doesn't manage to pull the double 6s though to get rid of her. Ray's up next, only has a range of 1 though, so he has to move 1 zone towards Gozer, takes 2 shots, doesn't get the 6s, doesn't manage to take down Gozer. Don't want to stand right there waiting for her to walk into me, so he spends his final action to move back with the rest of the Ghostbusters. So back to the bad guys. Only villain on the board is Gozer herself, who moves 1 zone forward, and we only have 1 spawn point now that Winston has turned off the car alarm. Unfortunately, it's Gozer's spawn card, so she takes another move action and ends up in our zone. Just what I didn't want. Back to the Ghostbusters, we're going to start with Egon. Egon with his new point blank skill is going to shoot at Gozer in the same zone. Now that I think about this, I'm not entirely sure I'm doing this right. It says I can choose zombies freely when I attack. I assumed that meant I didn't have to apply any hits to the Ghostbusters at all, but maybe if I got 2 hits with enough damage to eliminate Gozer, I'd have to kill off my own teammates? That doesn't seem right. Doesn't really matter though, because I managed to miss twice. I used my last 2 actions to move out of that zone and over to the left. Still got to get into that last building. Ray spends 2 actions to move away from Gozer over to the right and into the main building again. He's not able to shoot at Gozer because Pete's still there. He searches instead and gets the card, which means that we spawn a zombie in a zone. That's okay. Stans has a katana. Spends his last action to cut down that zombie with his samurai sword. Over to Venkman, he's the only one in the zone with Gozer, so he has no problems shooting 3 times at her. Doesn't get the double 6s. Nimble little minx. Fortunately, he has a slippery skill, so he spends his last action to move away from her. So now it's down to Winston. Spends his first action to move to the south. Now he's in range. Misses 2 shots against her, but then kills her with the final one. Zedmore just racking up the captures. And he has a free move action which he uses to move into the zone where Gozer was just neutralized. In the zombie phase, there are no zombies left on the board, and the spawn phase just gives us a single runner to the left. Now we're talking. Venkman starts us off by killing off the runner. He then uses the crowbar to open the final building. It's got 2 rooms to spawn. We get Stay Puft in the far room again. How'd he wedge himself in there? I'm going to have to try and grab that objective and run away from him at this point. The near room, unfortunately, gives us 3 runners, which is kind of a lot. Venkman's going to need to clear those guys out. He fires into the room, misses with his first shot, but his second one kills off 2 runners. Okay, only 1 left. Going to activate Winston next. He uses free action to get into the zone with the rest of the Ghostbusters. Fires up north, kills off the runner. Second action moves into the zone. Third action takes the objective. It's the blue objective, of course. House alarm goes off. Blue spawn zone is active again. Final action, he moves back onto the street with the rest of them. Well, except for Ray. Ray is still in the main building off to the right. He's going to spend 2 more actions to search. He finds water. I don't discard it though, so no chance of Slimer showing up. And I get a flashlight. I lose the pan. I don't need it at this point. He then moves out onto the street into the intersection, and for Egon's activation, he goes and joins him. In the zombie phase, Stay Puft is the only one on the board, and he thunders into the first room. The left spawn zone gives us Zuul again. They are really encouraging us to leave at this point. Thankfully, the north spawn zone, which is the one that I'm worried about because that's where I have to go past in order to get to the exit, that gives us an extra walker activation. No walkers on the board. That's a good time for that to show up. Back to the Ghostbusters, and we are not going to let this opportunity go to waste. We are going to spend all of our activations to get as far away from Zuul and Stay Puft as we can, and as close to the exit as we can. I did consider actually just hopping in the Ecto one. I don't think it would be a problem. I think it would probably be fine if that happened. We could drive through any zombies that spawned in that north, and I don't think they would be able to get an extra activation to be able to attack us. But in the end, I thought the simplest thing to do was to just use regular ground movement. All of my Ghostbusters managed to get to the exit zone, except for Pete. He's 1 zone away. Ghost turn and Stay Puft and Zuul chase after us. We get 3 runners to the left and 3 runners to the north. Yeah, this is a good time to be not here. Venkman takes his turn, he moves to the exit zone and leaves, and then each of the Ghostbusters in turn leave at the end of their activation. That's it! We've won the game! First game of Zombicide 1st Edition using the full rules. This was supposed to be an easy mission. Maybe using the regular Zombicide rules it would have been, but with all those abominations, there were some really hairy moments. If the Ghostbusters don't come up with those 6s on the proton rolls, we really run the risk of getting overwhelmed by all those abominations. Still, plenty of fun, and the boys did well. I like the game, I'm going to keep going with it. For now, leave a comment below if you have any questions, observations, or concerns, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one.